you doing tonight? IB
What's
Nation
up?
Sports Talk. Vince, how's it going?
Today was beautiful. Sean. You know why
That's what I
today was
hear.
beautiful
It's
for me?
probably warmer where you are than where I am, and I'm in North Carolina, where
Yeah.
it's supposed to be nicer down here.
Well, it's 56 degrees. We had SAT day at school, so that means only juniors were there. They were testing all day till 1 o'clock. Then they all went home. Freshmen, sophomores, seniors, all at home today. It was beautiful. It was a ghost town, and I loved every second of it because nobody can get into a fight. Nobody can get in trouble. Nobody can do anything they're not supposed to do. And so I just sat back and relaxed, caught up on paperwork, and it was a glorious day.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, take it when you can get it, right?
Peace and quiet, baby. It was glorious. How was your day down there in the Carolinas?
It was fairly uneventful. Of course, for those who don't know, I'm down here with Notre Dame women's basketball. The ACC women's tournament started today. There were 3 games in the first round today. There'll be a few more games tomorrow. Notre Dame doesn't play until Friday because they have the double bye, but
Beautiful.
Went to a practice this morning at Guilford College, little Division III, really nice little gym they had.
Really?
In Guilford College. We drove past the baseball field, and I don't know if they do this on purpose. There's, it's a wooden fence across the outfield, and the paint is green, but the paint, looks like it's about 50 years old. It's like
I know that look.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, are you going for this kind of rustic look? Do you really want it to look like it's the start of the season? You would thought they would have maybe slapped a fresh coat of paint on there, but not so. Nice little gym though at Guilford.
Okay, never heard of it.
Yeah, I had neither until today.
So. Yeah,
but that's where we went. We'll get in those questions. It is mailbag night, so that means we're answering your questions. We're here for you. Is what we're here for.
That's right, baby.
So do it. We've got a lot coming up later in rapid fire. We will address Mark Packer's comments when he was taking part in announcing Niele Ivey as ACC Women's Basketball Coach of the Year yesterday. It was very interesting. I don't know if you've actually heard him or not yet, Vince.
I saw the rundown, and I saw that there were going to be comments, and I was like, I wonder what those comments are going to be. So I'm going to hear it for the first time with a lot of people, I would imagine. So
okay,
looking forward to it.
Because
I did see your tweet, though, about it was a negative tweet. So I'm assuming that the comments are going to be ridiculous.
Well, I'm guessing. I guess it depends on which way you look at it, how negative it was. I don't know if you saw, but Mark Packer was responding, and he's one of these responds to everybody,
Oh, okay.
all day long. Michaela Mabry, one of the Irish assistants, retweeted my tweet, and she also tweeted something, and he tweeted back at her and me, and yeah. So nice. It kind of settled down after a while, but we can get to all that a little bit later.
I'm behind then. I just saw your initial tweet. I didn't see any of the responses.
Yeah, interesting conversation that it's going to end up being. So. Again, we'll do that in rapid fire in a little bit. Of course, we've got football comments in rapid fire. We've got some Mike Bray, Notre Dame men's basketball comments. It's his last game.
I know. Tonight. My son and his girlfriend are on their way to the game as we speak, and he's going to be able to say he was at Mike Bray's last game, I guess.
Does it start at 7:00?
Yes, it does.
Interesting. You need to text him to text you like how full it is over there. I'm really curious to see like what it turns out.
Yeah, my father-in-law is taking them, and they left like 15 minutes ago thinking that, the traffic, it's going to be crazy. I was like, okay, well, we'll see.
Right. I tell you what, Coleman Smith was one of the first ones here. He had the first question. I don't know if we've had a Coleman Smith question before, but Coleman,
he's one of the OGs, like as far as a commenter, like back in the day when I was doing shows for my classroom at Riley. So he's OG. So welcome back, Coleman.
Welcome, Coleman. Do you think Chris Tyree will get more touches now with Parker as the offensive coordinator?
I hope so. It was funny. I was talking to Brian after the press conference, and I don't know if it was I was talking to Brian or if I was talking to Sean, but I was like, man, during the press conference for when they introduced Coach Parker, I was thinking to myself, man, what would have really topped off the press conference is if Parker would have said, when they asked him what his offense is going to be like or what are the differences going to be, he would have said, Chris Tyree is going to be a different guy because we're going to get the ball in his hands. Like that would have just been
that's my
sugar
offense.
on top, man.
That would have been beautiful if he just laid the gauntlet down right off the bat, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would have been awesome because that's what I wanted him to say. Now, based on what I think I know about Jared Parker and what his offense is going to look like, yeah, I think he will get more touches because they're going to simplify some things. They're going to get more guys involved. They're going to get their playmakers the football. And anybody that says that Chris Tyree is not a playmaker doesn't understand what they're watching.
Right.
Because he is a playmaker when used properly.
Are there people who say Tyree is not a playmaker?
There's people that say, oh, why are they giving him the football? Well, generally they give him the football when he's running between the tackles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get him the ball in the right way.
Yes. Get him the ball in the right way, and then we'll be good to go.
I still contend that they needed to get him, and they tried a little bit later in the season. They were trying to do some stuff with him, but by then it was one too little too late, and it was like some dink and dunk type stuff, and he didn't pick up a whole lot of yards and those kind of things. I just think that they're like when you talk about the creativity scale,
right,
with him combined with who else you have in that backfield, there's just so much you can do with Chris Tyree. He needs at least 8 touches per game.
Absolutely. Yes.
8 touches per game.
8 to 10.
That's what I said, at least 8, and you can go like
right.
You can go 8 to 15 as far as I'm concerned,
Because I still honestly want him as the kick return guy too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you need to get the ball in his hands and you need to get him in straight line speed, which is what they do on kickoff return. And so I still want him as a kickoff return guy. It's just, unfortunately, with the way the game is going, he's just not getting as many opportunities to actually return the football. Right. So keep him back there. I love it. And you can put another dynamic guy back there with him, but he needs more touches. No doubt about it.
Correct. Interesting question from Larry. Do we know if there will be a presser on our new O-line coach? Hope so. Well, let me just say, they announced Gino Guidugli.
Guidugli.
God, why do I keep saying it wrong now?
Guidugli. Yes.
Guidugli.
Yep.
What do I keep doing? Okay. Guidugli.
You're the one that taught me how to say it. So.
I know, and now I can't say it right. It's like I'm confusing myself. So they announced Gino Guidugli officially today. We've still got to wait for the official announcement for the offensive line coach. My guess is they'll do them together. That's just a guess because like last year, if you remember, they did when they brought in, all the new coaches, they did all of that. First they did kind of the, like the position coaches had kind of their day. And I think that was, like after the coordinators, they gave the coordinators a press conference and all that kind of. So that's my guess. We did here's something we found out. A week from today, they are going to do the offensive players. They announced that officially today.
But they haven't said which ones. They're going to hold out on us.
They didn't say which ones, but they're going to do the offensive players a week from today.
At 5:45, by the way, which is
and which is something we're going to have to figure out as far as this show goes.
Not helpful.
But not for us at all. But they also said that between now and a week from today, there's not going to be anything before then. They said that. So we know there's not going to be anything coming. I would think we're going to get some kind of opportunity with both of these new coaches. And that's why I say my guess is they'll just do them together, if at all possible.
I'm going to be a little more pessimistic, and I'm going to say they're not going to do squat with the new guys. The only time I think that we're going to get an opportunity to maybe talk to them is if they bring all the position coaches out during spring ball at some point. I don't know that there's going to be a special press conference with the new guys. I am not holding my breath. I will say that. So I'll be the negative Nelly on that one.
I mean, this is not the BK era.
I know.
They're not hiding. Like I said,
that's a good point.
We got to talk to all of them last year. I just think that, one, Guidugli just became official today.
Yeah.
I have to think about it again. And the offensive line coach is not official yet.
Sure.
So,
and I hope
I
you're
think
right.
we'll get something once it happens.
What we haven't had an opportunity to even see is what happens when a new coach is hired to Marcus Freeman's staff. Like, we don't know what that is because this is the first time that it's ever happened. So we don't really have
That's true.
any
Because Parker
groundwork
was already here.
to go off of. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting. You're right. They have not given us any reason to think that they'll be hiding coaches from us. It just, do other programs have press conferences when they hire a position coach? Did our boy Tommy Reese have one down in Alabama? I don't even know.
I don't know. Didn't really follow it.
I feel like
My
I would
guess
have
is
heard.
no, but
Yeah, I feel like I would have heard about it.
But like I said, last year after Mark, like we got that whole they took him in. I think it was the Namoli room, and they did like Dylan Parker was over here. All these different guys, they brought all of them in. So I think we'll get to talk to him at some point. They're pretty good about it. Even if it's right at the start of spring practice or something. I think we'll get to talk to him.
State of the program kind of a situation. You know what BK used to do? Did he do like a state of the program, like going into spring practice? So we got something along those lines, like going into spring, and then we had spring. And I look, we also found out recently that we know for a fact that March 22nd is going to be the first day of spring practice. I am still very interested to see, what do we get to see? What is the availability going to be for practice? And how many days of school do I get to miss in order to go? Those are all the things on my mind.
Niele Ivey was just on the ACC network. Muffet and Matt McGraw flew down with us on the team charter yesterday. So that was interesting. Got to talk to her and him a little bit.
Is she doing TV work for this thing or what?
Yeah, Muffet's on ACC network all the time. She's part of their regular coverage of women's basketball throughout the season.
So is she working the tournament then? Is she going to be okay, good. Awesome.
They've got like a live crew, they check in before and after every game and all that kind of stuff. So, yep. Some pretty good coverage that they got over there. We'll save the women's basketball talk for rapid fire though, because we've got, the other conversation that we're going to get into as well. I'll tell you what though. How about this one? Let's go ahead.
This is an interesting one from Ian.
Slip this one in. Ian asks, who is the better coach right now, Niele Ivey or Marcus Freeman? Who will be the better coach when they leave Notre Dame, Ivey or Freeman?
It's this is going to sound like I'm starting off with a cop-out answer, but this is tough because it's women's basketball versus football, and it's a big difference, right? I mean, and I think
it's true.
I think both coaches are very good coaches. I think they're both dynamic recruiters. I think there's no argument there. I think Niele Ivey is an excellent recruiter. She was the lead recruiter on Muffet's staff, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You're kind of the expert on this stuff.
Correct.
And Marcus Freeman was clearly the best recruiter on the staff at Notre Dame and still is, even as the head coach. So both of them, hands down, great recruiters. No doubt about that. I feel like I feel like Niele was she was dealt kind of a tough hand, in her first year.
Roster was not in good shape
when
she came in.
Correct. And that was tough. That was tough. And she did a great job. I mean, obviously Olivia Miles was able to come in a little early, which is definitely helpful. Cass Prosper has been able to come in early here, but getting some transfers and things like that. So I just don't, it seems like, I don't know if it's easier to have success in the women's game than it is the men's game. So like, how do we measure success? They're both really, really good young coaches that I'm glad I get to root for, but it's hard to say. I think Ivey, I'll say coming in the door, Ivey was a better coach, but when it's all said and done, I'm not sure. We'll see.
They are really like the mold that those two are, I think that there's a reason that you see Marcus Freeman and a lot of women's basketball games fit in front court. There are a lot of similarities between where they are, starting off, both first-time head coach, both dynamic recruiters, making connections, with the recruits. You're right. It's a little apple to oranges because you're talking about women's basketball versus football. But I'll say this, you're right. when Niele took over the program, roster was not in good shape. And that first season, like strategically, you can see a huge difference just watching games, like especially like end of game situations.
Yeah.
You know, how the team responds to adversity in the fourth quarter. Like now, it's like they own the fourth quarter
They do.
more times than not. Those like that first year, they blew I don't know how many fourth quarter
Right.
leads. And even last year, they still had some problems in the fourth quarter. That is a thing of the past, right? So like you can see the progression, but along with that, one, I think she is I won't say much, but a better coach of the game, strategic coach of the game. But what's that come with? Experience. And so the answer to the question, because who's the better coach right now? Who will be the better coach when they leave Notre Dame? Right now, Niele is the better like X and O coach, I think,
Sure.
because she's got 2 more years of experience than Marcus Freeman.
Yes,
I think,
absolutely.
but like again, like you saw Marcus Freeman, like you didn't see any major gaffes from her. It was just like, she kind of had different patterns that she followed and didn't necessarily come off them, but you can see a progression there. Again, like whether it's substitutions or what she's going to do, and I think we saw some of that from Marcus Freeman throughout the course of the season as well, where he was adjusting. I think it's just a matter of time. Like I think that when they leave Notre Dame, that is the biggest question because like unless Niele decides maybe in 10 years or something that she wants to, go back to the NBA or even, whatever it had, like, I think that could be there for her, like, what is the tenure of Marcus Freeman get?
Sure.
That's predicting how that's going to go. So I just think that Marcus Freeman, I think that he'll follow that progression because that Niele Ivey has already had, because it also comes with she's got a lot better roster right now. Just
Absolutely.
like you were saying, she's got a lot better roster, and that's where Marcus Freeman is also going to be a couple of years from now. The roster is going to look completely different, and that's going to be in large part due to the kind of recruiting he's doing, just like her roster looking different due to the recruiting that she's doing with Prosper and Citron
it's easier to flip a roster in basketball than it is in football. There's a lot less. It's a smaller roster. I completely agree with that. Derek said 12 girls versus 100 guys. You're absolutely right. I totally get that. It's talking about the sport. It doesn't even need to be girls versus boys, but just the sport of basketball. You go get 2 game changers in basketball, that can change your entire projection or trajectory, as a program, right? You get 2 game changers in football, it won't be as good because if you got a great quarterback and a great wide receiver and crap offensive line, doesn't matter, right? Now, if Niele goes out and wins a national championship, awesome. That's great. If they each win 1 national championship, just by the definition of the sport that they coach, one's going to be more celebrated than the other, but it doesn't mean one is a better coach than the other.
Right.
So,
and I'm obviously not saying Marcus Freeman is not a good coach. I'm just, again, when you look at, he's early in his career, just like 2 years ago, Niele Ivey was a first-time head coach. And we all know there are things that you learn as a head coach that you only learn by being a head coach. And Niele Ivey, like I said, Niele is 2 years in front of him now. So that's why right now, I think she's a little bit better strategically. But again, we're still apples and oranges because of the different sports that they're coaching.
And I also agree with you that they can learn from each other. And I think that they are close, as close as you can be as colleagues and things of that nature, right? Like you said, otherwise Marcus Freeman wouldn't be as many games as he is. I mean, he's there all the time when he can be. So I think it's fun to watch these two both grow as well, So it's going to be cool, man. Like I said, I'm excited that I get to root for both of these head coaches because they're fun to root for because I believe that they do it the right way and they do it with hard work. So there's one comment I wanted to comment on before we move.
Okay.
Let's see. Here we go. David said that women are more serious about their education. I want to push back on that just a little bit because I think it's the product of what the professional level looks like. Men versus women, right? I don't think that the women are more serious about their education. I just think that they have to stick around longer, to make a name for themselves and to get to the professional level. And the dollar signs aren't the same when they get to the professional
and that's what
level.
I was going to say.
So
like if we're talking strictly basketball, if we're comparing men's and women's basketball, the money is completely different.
Correct.
Men's and women's, and that's Muffet has talked about that in the past. If there was the inducement of the kind of contracts that the men have, I think that you'd see a lot more women leave after 3 years.
A lot of one and dones,
or even a couple years.
Yeah.
But like Caitlin Clark, the Iowa point guard, I saw an interview with her on it was on the Dan Patrick show, and they tweeted it out yesterday. She's a junior right now. She said she's definitely coming back next year, and she's even considering sticking around for a 5th year because of the NIL component. She's getting a lot of bank right now from NIL, and she likes the college game. I think that the men can learn a lot from that potentially.
Oh, for sure.
If they get it figured out. But again, there's a big difference between being a first-round NBA pick as opposed to not being drafted, even being drafted in the 2nd round and having to go to Europe or, China or wherever if you're in the men's game. But, if the NIL is right, I think that could potentially sway some guys to stick around a little bit longer.
For sure. And that's where NIL can help the game, right? I mean, that it can, because guys are willing to stick around. You don't have I need to go to the pros to make money for my family. You can make money for your family using NIL if it's done properly, right? So I think that can help the college game if done correctly, which is a crapshoot at best anyway.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I was just about to play. I think I actually had.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Baldwin's errant shot. Any hopes of hiring David Cutcliffe as an offensive analyst?
We don't get a whole lot of information about analysts and how they do things. And to be honest with you, I think Notre Dame's a little behind the times when it comes to stocking analysts, like some of the bigger time programs do.
Mm-hmm.
And it flies more under the radar as well. I mean, we don't hear about analyst hirings. That's not really a thing that Notre Dame does. And so, I would say the hopes of a big splash analyst hiring are slim to none, if I'm being honest. I don't think that Notre Dame puts the onus or the importance on analysts like other big time programs do. And maybe they're behind the times, or maybe they just don't feel like the benefit is there. I don't know, but at the moment, they just don't. They don't have a stock room full of analysts like some of these bigger programs do.
Down south there, it's like, oh, you're not a head coach anymore? All right, well, join my Alabama staff for a year, and that'll turn around, and you'll either be my offensive coordinator next year or you'll be somebody else's a year from now,
Right. Yeah.
And but you're right. Notre Dame, that's just not the path that Notre Dame takes.
For whatever reason. Is it Swarbrick? Is it the university? I don't know the answer to that. Is it Marcus Freeman? Does he not want a bunch of analysts? I don't know, but they just don't.
Well, and the other part of it is,
I don't know.
You got to feel well, and like with Kelly, I could see why there maybe weren't more analysts, because it was like the cult of Kelly. It's like he had to have his fingerprints and his input on everything, and maybe I can see where he wouldn't necessarily want that. But young defensive head coach, first-time coordinator, like Cutcliffe obviously makes sense if that's what Jared Parker wants and what Marcus Freeman would want. And you got to depend, you still got to figure out how much you're going to pay him. Does David Cutcliffe, where he is at this point in his life, want to pack up and move to South Bend and, all those different kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. 2.0, pick one, Gino and Parker or Reese and Parker?
I mean, it's kind of an interesting question because Reese is the offensive coordinator. Parker was the tight ends coach. And now you've got Gino as the quarterbacks coach and Parker as the offensive coordinator. So it's not a direct comparison. I like Gino as a quarterbacks coach from a fundamental standpoint and a teaching standpoint. I mean, I like him more than Reese. He's got more skin in the game. He's been doing it a lot longer. He's got, he's got a track record. right? And so I will always take a coach with a track record of success, and Gino Guidugli has that success. And so Parker, they're the same. So now I guess we're comparing Gino and Reese. So I guess I would take Gino and Parker because I would take Gino over Reese as a quarterbacks coach.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're just going based on experience, the Gino Parker, even though there's not a ton more experience, there's more experience than the Reese Parker combination, right? Like overall in what they're doing and everything. And like you said, I think that Gino has a good track record with the quarterbacks, what he's had so far. So, I mean, it's slight because again, it's not a direct comparison because you're talking about a tight end position coach versus a quarterback coach.
Right.
Who's going to have more direct input, on what's going on with the development and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And Parker's still the tight ends coach, even though he's the offensive coordinator. So like nothing really changes there. So, but I know people are excited about the fact that Notre Dame has a quarterbacks coach. And that's all he's going to do. Great.
Nathan wants to know, is Harry Hiestand leaving after 1 year because Tommy Reese went to Alabama? A poor move.
I mean, it depends on is it a poor move for Notre Dame? I think that remains to be seen. Is it a poor move for Harry Hiestand? Obviously, he's fine with not coaching. So I'm sure he doesn't think it's a poor move. And there was literally nothing that Marcus Freeman could say to Harry Hiestand to keep him around. Like as soon as Reese said he was leaving, Harry was like, deuces, I'm out.
Right.
And they tried to convince him and it was no go. And he didn't even care who the next OC was going to be. He was that loyal to Tommy Reese, which I find very intriguing, but that's the way it went. So is it a poor move? Let's see how Joe Rudolph does with the cupboard that he's got at Notre Dame. I think it's a pretty darn good cupboard, and I think he's going to do pretty well. I don't think we can really even answer this question for another couple of years, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, like we don't know exactly what the impact is going to, just exactly. It definitely hurts Notre Dame for the short term because of what Harry was able to do with that offensive line over the course of the season, correcting some of the bad habits, getting them pointed in a much better direction. And it's just amazing to me that you would come out of retirement to begin with.
Yeah.
And then because Tommy Reese leaves, now you're going to retire again. Like how really into it was, was he? I don't know. He seemed like the same old Harry out there. But from his aspect, if he didn't want to be there, you can't force a guy to be there. So from his aspect, I can't say it was a poor move. It hurts Notre Dame for the short term. And then, like you said, we won't find out what it really means long term for a couple of years. And we see what Rudolph looks like as a developer and all that kind of stuff. And a recruiter for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super chat from Tyler. Thank you very much. Vince and Sean, what would you like your teams to do in the NFL draft? And today, my girlfriend and I found out we were going to be first-time parents. Congratulations.
That's awesome. Good luck.
Oh.
Man, no bigger job, no bigger pain in the ass, but no bigger joy. So good luck, Tyler. Congratulations. What would I like my team to do in the draft? I'm a Bears fan, and they have the number 1 pick at the present. If they use that number 1 pick to draft somebody, I will be very upset. They have a terrible roster, which needs a heck of a lot of work, and I wouldn't be mind to see them trade down a couple times and just get a bunch of picks and just start rebuilding that roster. I think they got a lot of the guys. I think they have the head coach in place. I think they have a decent GM. Let's see how he does, because now you're a GM with the number 1 pick. So let's see how, take that thing out for a spin and see what you can get for it. If they use it on one guy, I'm going to be pretty pissed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm a little, because as usual, there's like so many holes that the Cowboys need to fill with their draft, and of course they pick lower in the draft than the Bears, so like they don't have the luxury of being able to trade the pick and get a whole bunch out of it. There's talk about wide receiver. There's talk that they could even go running back, which I'm not thrilled about because like Zeke Elliott might be back, even though they haven't really decided on what's going on there yet. Offensive line is another thing. There's there's a lot. Let me just say this though, like I keep hearing people say, oh, they've got all this tight end depth and all that stuff. I would love it if they drafted Michael Mayer. That would be my dream scenario. Get Michael Mayer and then some other stuff. They need another wide receiver, and they drafted a wide receiver, I think, in the second round last year, who played a handful of snaps all year, who they thought was going to be a difference maker. So it's just so hard to rely on rookie wide receivers. Just like in college, you just don't know what you're going to get from freshman wide receivers. So my answer is I would love, but my best case scenario is Michael Mayer, and then fill in the gaps around that.
Where are the Cowboys picking? What number are they at? Give or take. Give me a range.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Right. Obviously they made the playoffs, so it's like upper to mid 20. Like I said, I can't remember the exact number. But.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, do you think 23 will bring the positive changes we need to see with the linebacker and defensive line in both development and recruiting? And if not, will Marcus Freeman cut ties with Golden and Al Washington? They're both at the bottom of staff right now.
I mean, hopefully. I mean, that's all I can say. Do I think it will be positive? I'm hoping. We're going to see how good of a coach Al Washington is this year, because I don't know that there's a whole lot of front runners on the defensive line. They're going to have to play well as a unit. They're not going to be able to lean on a bunch of individual stars this year. So we're going to see, right? And we're going to see really fast. And we're also going to see, what he can do as a recruiter with this 24 class. And so, I mean, if he lands Justin Scott, does that turn everything around for people and what they think about Al Washington as a recruiter? What does this class look like? Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the bullseye area, right? He's under the microscope with what he's going to be able to do. And frankly, so is Al Golden. I mean, what is he trying to transform the defense into a 3-down defense? What is he trying to do with this defense, and how is it going to look, and how productive are they going to be? Because I do think the offense is going to be able to put a lot of points on the board.
Yeah.
But the defense is going to have to show up, and they're going to have to play well to complement the offense. I think it has a possibility of being the complete opposite of what it's been for the last few years, where the defense is pretty dominant and the offense is just kind of there, right? I think the offense is going to score. The defense is going to have to make a couple key stops this year. And are they going to be able to do it? I don't know. I hope so.
The front seven's got to be better. There's no doubt about that. And that's where it's going to, the success or failure of Notre Dame's defense, it's all going to ride on what happens with the front seven. For the first time in maybe ever that I can remember, we feel much better about the secondary than we do the front seven. Just a couple of short years ago, the secondary was a major concern. The recruiting has turned around. The development for Mike Mickens has turned around. And if the front seven is not better after year 2, I will be really curious to see what Marcus Freeman's thought process is in terms of does he make a move? Because recruiting is going to be a part of this as well.
Huge part. It's going to be a huge part, right? Because your defense is only really going to be as good as your front, period. I mean, Notre Dame's going to have one of the best secondaries, I think, overall in the country. They're going to be right up there. But if the front seven blows, it doesn't matter. So we're going to see what happens here. And Al Golden is going to have his work cut out for him, getting this defense ready to play.
Johnny asking about the Mark Packer comments. We're going to get to that in rapid fire. We will play the comments for you in rapid fire, and then we will discuss on rapid fire. If you saw my Twitter yesterday, you know my thoughts, but we will address it. Uh-oh. Hang on a sec. I got to plug my computer in.
Oh, no.
I just got the low battery warning. So
yeah, don't fail me now. Don't die on me. You just hit the mute button. I think you're going to have to go out and come back. So I will look for some more questions while you go ahead and do that. And let's see what we got here. Ray wants to know, speaking of offensive line, what is going on with Rocco Spindler? Well, I mean, nothing is going on with Rocco Spindler right now from a football standpoint because all they're doing is off-season conditioning and things of that nature. And Rocco Spindler was a guy who I don't think took the big step that everybody was hoping that he would take, going from his freshman year to his sophomore year. I've heard things about, slower feet, being a little overweight. I've heard a lot of different things, but I still know that the staff is fairly high on him. I think for Rocco, the best thing that could possibly happen is the fact that there's going to be a new O-line coach. So everybody's going to be on a new footing when it comes to offensive line, and his position is one of those ones that's up for grabs. So going based on what I knew about the team from last year going into this year, I think they got 2 guard openings, and I think there's about 4 guys that they have a possibility of nailing down one of those guard spots, and I think he's one of them. And so we'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see if he's been able to reshape his body a little bit and do some different things in the offseason once spring practice hits. But, he just isn't the wonder kid that everybody thought he was going to be. And he kind of got overshadowed by 2 other sophomores who were pretty stinking good at tackle.
Are we good now, by the way?
We are fantastic.
I think what happened as soon as I plugged it in, it of course, with the Mac, it did some crazy stuff.
Of course.
That first spring when he was an early enrollee, he was getting a lot of reps because remember, there were some injuries on the offensive line. And I think that got a lot of people wound up and expecting some things early. He was, and this is not a knock on him, he was there by default because he was there in the spring. So he was just getting a lot of reps.
Sure.
And unfortunately, it's, we're a couple years later now, and that hasn't turned into, reps with the real team and all that kind of stuff. But at the same line, there are a lot of other very capable offensive linemen there, and you got to compete if you're going to win those. And I'm not saying he's not competing. I'm just saying everybody's got to compete for a job if you're going to win one. So that'll be it. I mean, that's definitely, for whatever we get to see, that's going to be one to watch this spring. What happens with those 2 spots on the offensive line?
No doubt.
Just going back to the Michael Mayer thing, Jason says, if Mayer is there, do you think and Larry said, by the way, they draft 26. And I was thinking 28. I knew it wasn't that low, but like I said, I knew it was that mid-20 someplace. I think, the track record that the Cowboys have is like, if someone with, that kind of talent gets that far and falls to them, I do think that they would pull the trigger for them. Because, they've got a couple tight ends, but they're more like under the radar kind of tight ends who are built more like wide receivers than Michael Mayer. Mayer is a true physical, he has work to do with his blocking and stuff like that. That's been pointed out by some draft analysts, but he definitely is someone who can be both a blocker and a pass catcher. So I think that Dallas would have a hard time passing that up if Michael Mayer was falling in their lap there at 26.
How could you? Now, will he last to 26? I think that is probably a bigger question mark right now, but, we'll see.
But the other thing, and, he's at the combine, the other thing is, what do his explosives look like?
Sure.
His vertical and his 40 and, all those different things, the broad jump, and, how much is that going to affect how people view him as a true first-round guy, or could he slip to the second? There have been plenty of Notre Dame guys we thought we were going to be first-rounders who slipped into the second, because of that kind of stuff, testing type stuff.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to interview well. All that stuff is going to be good. His film is obviously good. So, I mean, and what is he going to do at the combine? Like what? I haven't, obviously Ryan is the guy to ask. He's down in Indy right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does while he's down there, right? Because everybody thinks he's an automatic first-round pick. And a lot of times first-round picks don't go through everything, So we'll see what happens. But he's going to make some team really, really happy. I hope he doesn't fall too far.
Tyler wants to know what position group is under the most pressure this season.
I think it's the linebackers, if I'm being honest, because you've got every one of the starters back from last year. And it feels like nobody was happy with the way that they played, right? And so you got all these younger guys who are knocking on the door. So what is that going to look like? And so not only is it the position group from a on the field standpoint, but also the coaching, right? Al Golden is the linebackers coach. And if they don't have a good year, target's going to be on his back too. So I think it's not just the players that are under the pressure, but I think the coaches as well.
I'll just go to the other side of the ball and say the wide receivers. Like Lorenzo Styles was their second leading receiver, but I think everyone can agree that it was far from what we envisioned for Lorenzo Styles last season. Now, how much is a new offensive coordinator going to help? How much is year two with with a different position, with the same position coach, but after switching position coaches last year, all that stuff. I mean, it's still, and there's a ton of young talent, but they've got to get way more production out of that group. So I'll say I'll stick with that side of the ball with the wide receivers.
Okay. I would say that the wide receiving core has the biggest ceiling for this season. I think they have the biggest chance to make a big impact on this team and what they're able to do. Now, part of that obviously is the quarterback play. I think we can all agree that there were many times that the receivers were open last year and they just weren't getting the ball. So I think that's part of it.
Different quarterback. How much does that come into play?
Oh, yeah, huge. It's huge. Whether it's Sam Hartman or Tyler Buckner, I think the wide receivers are going to have a better year, period. Right? So, but we'll see what, I mean, we all assume that Hartman's going to win that job, but I think whoever wins the job, the wide receivers are going to have a better year.
Yeah. Mason Lunford not visiting, Josh. That he tweeted that out, and it was quickly, I believe it. Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
That's not happening. That visit is not happening now. So
yeah. Yep. And then that is. It was a coach's decision on Notre Dame's part. It sounds like Mason Lunsford kind of jumped the gun on announcing that he was coming in. And before they even had an offensive line coach, they were like, yeah, we're not going to host you. So, and look, Notre Dame is happy with the depth that they have in that offensive line room. And I think they should be. I don't, again, I kind of lean on Brian when it comes to watching film and analyzing these guys, but he didn't think that Mason Lunsford could hold a candle to the guys that are already at Notre Dame. The only thing he had was experience. Okay, that's something. That's one box. But I think the guys that are already there, maybe they lack the experience, but they check an awful lot of boxes for the potential to be a very good offensive lineman. So I just don't think that they were going to get better by bringing him in. I think Notre Dame made the right choice.
All right, hit the like button if you would. We haven't asked you to do that tonight. I waited a little bit longer than usual, but hit the like button, subscribe, rate, review, and all the great stuff. And with that, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Rapid fire from long distance from the Carolinas, baby. Woo! Let's go.
We'll get to some more of these questions that we haven't got. They'll mix in with rapid fire. Some of them go with what we're going to talk about.
Yes, they do.
In rapid fire. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame officially announced Gino Guidugli as quarterback's coach today. And the thing you like most about that is blank.
His name. That's the part I like the best. I am going to enjoy saying Gino Guidugli. I'm going to really enjoy that. But no, from an actual coaching standpoint, I love his track record. I love his resume, what he's been able to do from a development standpoint. It's what fans have been screaming for how long, Sean? I mean, they have been looking for the dedicated quarterbacks coach for so long. Now they've got it, and they got a good one. And so I am very interested to see, because there's a lot of talent in that room, right? Sam Hartman needs to just be tweaked a little bit here and there, being in a pro-style offense, things like that. Tyler Buckner, we don't need to dive into who he is as a quarterback, but then you've got Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr, right? Those guys are young and talented, and let's see them develop into, game-changing quarterbacks. Like, that is really exciting. So I'm pumped about it.
You know what just struck me is it's easier for me to say Uyangalale and Agumbawale than it is Guidugli.
I don't know why.
I know.
You're going to
like
get
you
it.
said, I said it right the first day, and I've butchered it ever since. So,
it's in your head. Now it's in your head.
It is. It's like I get all these consonants turned around is the problem. It's not the vowels
funny.
that throw me off. I'm just glad that it's over. It's done. It's officially announced because, people were already starting to get antsy. When's it going to happen? And it's like, it really, to me, all this stuff has happened in a relatively short amount of time, considering over the years, like it could take 3 weeks to months time for stuff to become official after we got reports that it was going to happen. And this happened in what, a week and a half, something like that.
Felt like a long time, but it really wasn't. I mean,
but it's done, and I think he's going to be a good fit based on everything that we know about him. And they can just gear up, go forward, get ready for spring football. I think that's the biggest thing. They've got it under control, especially after a couple of weeks ago when everything blew up. The Guidugli thing was the smoothest piece to this whole off season.
Seriously, that was like instant. I mean, as soon as Ludwig, didn't work out, like the next day, it was like, okay, they're going to hire Gino Guidugli to be the quarterback's coach. Oh, okay. All right. Like that was instant. So, I mean, the pivot that Marcus Freeman made from one plan to the other plan it felt like it was instantaneous.
Yes. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Mike Bray says he's going to the linebacker for the first time ever later tonight after he coaches his last game at Purcell Pavilion.
It feels like a little white lie. That's how I'm going to put that. It feels like a little white lie that Mike Bray says he's going to the linebacker for the first time ever. Like, I don't know how I feel about that, but whatever. I mean, is he really going to go and like whoop it up with the fans and all that? Maybe. More power to him. Fans are going to get to see what Mike Bray's like in nightlife, I guess. So, I don't know. It was weird that he brought that up the way that he did in that interview.
And it's like when I heard it, I'm like, come on, you got to be kidding me. Because like we know that he's spotted around. There's a couple particular spots where Mike Bray gets spotted all the time. It's no secret, right? Like he's out, he's doing his thing. He's whatever, and it's like you're going to, and maybe that's why, because he thinks they're far enough off the radar from right next to Notre Dame that he's just never been to the linebacker, and obviously the linebacker's, a little bit different crew than some of the places that he goes as well. But it just seems odd. And he says he's closing it down. I hope they have something to celebrate tonight. I hope he can go over there and have some fun. But it's a pretty good Pittsburgh team that they're going to be facing.
I believe it's the number one team in the ACC.
It is.
So good luck. Good luck. It's going to be interesting. Start tip-offs in 10 minutes. Stick with us, though. I'll let you know. I've got my feelers out. I'm going to let you know how full the stadium is when tip-off actually happens. I've asked for video, so we'll see.
Okay. So now we have come to the point in the show where we're going to talk about the Mark Packer stuff. And I saw the comment in the chat. Okay. And I'll get to that here in a minute. But I want to play the comments first, and then we can talk about it. Because ACC Network announced the end-of-season Women's Basketball Conference Awards yesterday. That included Niele Ivey being named ACC Coach of the Year. And so Mark Packer, of course, the late Billy Packer is Mark's father, and a lady named Taylor Tannenbaum, they made the Coach of the Year announcement on the ACC Network yesterday. They were the ones in charge of, okay, here's, Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all this different stuff they were unveiling. So this is the actual announcement. They have now come to Coach of the Year, and here's how the conversation went on ACC Network yesterday.
Okay. And load it up.
The winner is Niele Ivey.
Niele Ivey. Congratulations to Coach Ivey back at her alma mater.
Explain that one to me.
So I can
help me on that one. Again, I'm not taking anything away from Coach Ivey.
Not at all.
Number one seed. They're top 10 all season long. Expected to be good. They were good. They suffered injuries. Still battled through it. They are the team right now with the one beside their name. I get all of that.
So your qualm is?
My qualm is, to me, who did the best job coaching this year? In my opinion, if I had a vote, I don't. Is Carol Lawson from Duke. I mean, nobody had Duke on the radar before the season started. We thought Notre Dame was going to be good. We thought Louisville was going to be good. NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, the list goes on. The league's awesome. But Duke was in nobody's conversation as far as a factor in the race. And in my opinion, unless there's some kind of bylaw that I'm not aware of, that whoever finishes first gets the deal, no knock on Coach Ivey. She's awesome. She's a class act and has a great program. But Carol Lawson should have been the Coach of the Year, in my opinion. I think it's a no-brainer.
No, I hear you. What Carol Lawson has done with Duke has been absolutely outstanding, especially when you go from back of the pack, midway from the pack, to being at the forefront of the conference with a chance. They had the chance this past weekend to lock up that number one seed.
I get that, but before the season started, I don't know of anybody outside of the Duke locker room that said, hey, that's really cute you guys keep talking about NC State and Louisville and Notre Dame and Carolina and Virginia Tech and Florida State, but Duke's going to be the team. What are you going to get out of here? You fall down a flight of stairs? You hit your head again? What happened? What are you talking about, Duke? Carol Lawson should have been the Coach of the Year. I don't know who votes on it, but I can't. That one, when I saw that today, I went, come on. No way.
So there you have it. Niele Ivey is your ACC Coach of the Year. First one for Notre Dame since our Hall of Famer, Muffet McGraw, won it back in 2016.
I know Muffet's going to be mad at me saying that because she's got the pom-poms out. Listen, the pom-poms mean nothing to me, right?
I think coach respects good coach, right?
I get all that.
Yeah.
And Niele Ivey is an awesome basketball coach, right? They could win the national title from it, but they do need to get Olivia Miles back. But Carol Lawson should have been the ACC Coach of the Year. Should have been. I don't know what else you want me to tell.
No, nothing else. Niele Ivey has navigated some injuries, major injuries, all great coaches. Yeah, Kenny Brooks was probably in the mix as well. He has Virginia Tech playing some incredible basketball too. But unfortunately, the award can only go
and let's face it, Kenny Brooks' team.
So there you hear it, Vince. And, again, like we got the message in the chat, and I did see this tweet, and it was something I was going to bring up. Packer tweeted, said he was wrong, didn't handle it correctly, yada, yada, yada. But you heard it, and I was watching it live. Niele Ivey and her coaching staff are watching it live.
Sure.
And her team, they were all there watching it live.
Were you in the same room as all of them when they were
watching?
No,
I was not. I was at home because I was writing up the story so I could get it published and all that kind of stuff.
I was just curious.
It was within an hour of having to be at the airport actually yesterday. But so there you heard it on the ACC network announcing the ACC's Coach of the Year. What do you think about the way he handled, what he was saying there?
Well, first of all, that's not how you handle when somebody wins. Like, you don't immediately give pushback when you're speaking on the ACC network about the ACC Coach of the Year and you're announcing all of these things, whether you agree or disagree, and you can have that conversation at a later date. And I really don't have an issue with that. You can have that conversation. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But you just won ACC Coach of the Year, and it's like, Niele Ivey, explain it to me. Like, that is not your job, dude. Like, that was a terrible, unprofessional way to handle that situation. Whether you, like I said, whether you think she deserved it or not, that is not your job at that moment to get into a debate about whether she should or shouldn't have won the award. That's ridiculous.
And that's time and place.
Right,
time
exactly.
And place. Your job, because again, it's not like it's even on ESPN or Fox Sports or whatever. You are the ACC network.
Yes.
You are representing the ACC. It would be like, like if you went to the Grammys or the Oscars or the Emmys and the presenter got up there and said, and now the winner is blank. But before I give out this award, here's 10 reasons why I think someone, one of these other nominees should have won that. It's like the Kanye West Taylor Swift thing, with Beyonce a few years back. You remember that when he, like Beyonce should have won the award. It was like, that's not your job in that moment. The first thing out of your mouth shouldn't be, here's why someone else should have won the award. Like, you needed to spend at least, 10 seconds talking about, here's Niele Ivey, here's all she accomplished. Congratulations on Coach of the Year.
Yes.
Now, if you decide, like as he had made in his mind that it should have been Carol Lawson, maybe you can add your 2 cents about, now I would have voted for Carol Lawson. He's like, I don't even know who voted. Like, again,
really?
You work for the ACC
like,
and you're presenting the award and you don't even know who voted. Well, so just so everyone knows, the coaches vote for this. The media votes for this. I've outlined on the board. I had a vote. sports information directors from each of the schools, and they combine all those votes, and that's how they come up with it. So there's a really big cross section of people. It's not just a couple guys sitting in a back room saying, here's who we're going to name. And, again, as I pointed out, because, here's my tweet afterwards. Someone tell Mark Packer that Notre Dame women's basketball was picked to finish 4th in the ACC preseason poll, and Niele Ivey led them to the regular season championship. And he did respond to that, and he responded to one of the Irish assistants who retweeted my tweet. And my tweet was kind of the thing that got the Twitter firestorm going yesterday. But he kept responding to people. And I think, as I saw people say, he's doubled down, but then he did come back. And I wonder if it's because of some blowback, because I know that there were some complaints filed with the conference. And I wonder if it's because of blowback that now he's coming back and saying, I didn't handle it well. I'm going to address it on the air to apologize to Niele Ivey.
He doesn't seem like the kind of person that's going to eat crow. You know what I mean? Like to me, it felt like, because he was arguing with you about it. Like, it'd be one thing if he immediately said, you know what, you're right, blah, 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 blah. No, but he fought back from what it sounds like. And he's just wrong. Like, that is not, like, isn't he the co-host of, like, the morning show that they have?
Well, they used to do that. They used to have Packer and Durham, but they canceled that, I think, around a year or so ago.
Okay. Yeah. So, but I'm sure he has another platform where he can have this discussion. That is not the platform at all. And again, he's entitled to his opinion. I'm sure Carol Lawson did a great job, even though they don't know what size basketball to use during their games.
But again, if he did have a vote, which, as he says, he didn't, he would be one vote in the process.
Correct.
Like, not everyone who voted on this, I'm sure, voted for Niele Ivey. This was not a unanimous, they're never unanimous. I'm sure Carol Lawson got some votes.
I'm sure she did.
This is one person's, opinion in this whole thing, just like everyone had opinions. Just like I voted for Olivia Miles for Player of the Year. Elizabeth Kitley from Virginia Tech ended up being the 2-time Player of the Year. She averaged a double-double. She was still very deserving. I didn't happen to vote for her, but a lot of other people did. Miles still got a lot of votes because she finished second in the voting, So it's like, that's why you have a big pool of people to vote,
right? As
diverse as possible, people, who are covering the game. Again, time and place, completely wrong time to do it, because any of these awards, like if he had gone, because not only did he say what he said, when they came back from commercial break, one of the first things he said was, now I'm going to have a problem with one of these awards, and I'll tell you when we get there. And then they started going through, the different awards. And then he was like, okay, I don't have a problem with this one yet. I don't have a problem with this one, but I'll let you know. And then, so he knew what he was going to say, and he was building up to it. And again, it should be about the person who won the award.
Yes.
That was her moment. And it got spoiled because, and again, it's fine if he thinks that finishing second place after being predicted to finish 7th is, enough of a criteria. But Notre Dame was picked to finish 4th, and they won the championship. And as I said in a response to him as well, call me old-fashioned, but I guess voters value winning. She won the regular season championship, and she's the coach of the year. So congratulations to Niele Ivey.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll see what he has to say about it. I'm curious to see what his response ends up being.
Well deserved by her, by the way. Well deserved.
Yes. Kind of along the lines, people have been getting this a lot. Kevin asks, what is Olivia Miles' status? Really, all I'm at liberty to tell you is she is with the team here in Greensboro, and she was at the practice today. Okay. That's really all I'm at liberty to say, because I, do obviously get to see things that other people don't get to see, and I'm not allowed to divulge things. Wow. And I'm not saying that good or bad. I can't,
on the inside, my friend.
I can't tell you. You're going to have to wait until Friday, like everybody else, and see what happens. And I'll guarantee you this: when I do the pregame on Friday, Niele Ivey's not going to want to talk to me about Olivia Miles' status.
Guarantee you that's accurate.
The game is going to tip off, and everyone will find out together what's going on. So that's one more question on football, a super chat from Josh. When does spring practice start. We still haven't got an official date, but I believe it's going to be.
It's March 22nd. We did get that.
Oh, did we get a date?
Well,
Okay.
they posted it on social media.
Okay.
They
I
didn't
see
send
that.
it to us, but I did see
For
they
3
posted
weeks.
it on social media. March 22nd is day one. So
Okay. Good
Yep.
deal. All right. And then Nathan was asking, in today's game, would Manti be a Viper?
No.
I think he's still a middle linebacker.
He's a middle linebacker. He is he is the mold of a middle linebacker, no doubt about it. Yes, he's a middle linebacker. He's not a Viper.
I concur. All right. NFL draft combine's going on right now in Indianapolis. Ryan Roberts is down there. Head of the NFL Players Association, DeMaurice Smith, wants to get rid of the draft combine. He says he instead wants to establish regional pro days, potentially put on by the Players Association. Here's a quote. Quote, "We're now in an era where we know exactly how fast these guys can run, how much they can lift, how far they can jump, do all those things. Why do we insist on them showing up in Indianapolis? It's not for anything physical, right? It's for the teams to be able to engage in intrusive employment actions that don't exist anywhere else. We've been tracking all these players since they were in what, grade school? If I asked you right now to pull up a high school video of the top draft pick, how long would it take you to do it?" End quote. So, Vince, do you buy or sell what DeMaurice Smith is saying about get rid of the combine, do these regional kind of events instead?
No, it's stupid. The whole point of the combine is to bring everybody together so that the NFL teams only have to go to one place and they can interview all the people and they can see everybody in person and they can do everything all at once over a week-long span. That's the point. If they do them regionally, then they got to go to 4 different places and they got to do it all. Like what?
Exactly.
Why would you multiply the amount of time that these scouts and GMs and everything else and coaches have to go to?
It's literally why they do the combine. All you're doing
The
is
whole
creating
point.
smaller combine events around the country as
Right.
opposed to one centralized
It's
event.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard. To be honest with you, it's dumb. I don't
I mean,
understand.
if anything, if you're going to do away with it, do away with it. But then, it's like, then everyone's having pro days, because everyone, you have a combine and you have a pro day. It's like,
Right.
there's a reason they do the combine,
Correct.
because it's just what you said, so that the NFL guys don't have to go all over the country.
Right. Absolutely. And there's already plenty of pro days for these guys to go to. And, they're not going to add regional combines. Like, they want it all in one place for a reason. Why? DeMaurice has more issues than he can count. And I don't know why he's taking up this one. Like, that,
Yeah, I
it
know.
just seems silly to me.
I don't know if if it's because he thinks that, like going there can potentially hurt more players' stock than help their stock, in terms of contract. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, let's don't have one big combine. Let's have a bunch of combines in different places around the country. Makes
Now,
no sense at all.
I don't have a problem. Like, I realize the tradition of having an Indy, and it's always been that way. So if they wanted to move it like they do the draft, if they wanted to move it to a couple different places over the years, I would be fine with that, if I'm being honest. You want to have it in Vegas one year, you want to have it in wherever. Okay, cool. But you need to have one. And that's
Right.
the main one that everybody
And they're
goes
actually talking about, maybe starting
Right.
to move the combine around in the
right.
future.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, GMs and coaches are getting on a plane anyway. It doesn't matter where the plane is headed. You know what I mean? So I don't think that matters quite as much. But you've got to have a combine. You just do. That's where you get to see everything, talk to everybody, etc.
I agree. So, Vince, baseball's made a lot of changes heading into this season. The 4 big ones: pitch clock, there's a 3 pickoff rule for pitchers, defensive shifts are banned, and they're also using bigger bases. So let's go through them. What do you think about the pitch clock? It's been getting a lot of play
Yeah, it
in
has.
spring training over the last week.
It really has. And I think it's going to take a little bit for the players to get used to. But once they do, I think it's going to be a non-issue. If I'm being honest, I just don't see it as that big of a deal. It is going to speed the game up a little bit, which frankly I am for. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with the pitch clock. It's just going to take players a little bit to get used to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn on it. I've seen that they've cut so far, just in this first week, they've already cut like 25, 30 minutes off of game times, like
That's
on average,
significant.
which like the reason I'm torn is because if I'm watching a game on TV, I definitely want at least closer to 3 hours than 3.5 or 4. But if I'm shelling out money to go to a major league game, I honestly don't care how long the game takes because I'm there with the family and I'm, having fun. And, I like hanging out at the ballpark. I want to get all my money's worth when I go to the ballpark, So I haven't been able to sit down and actually watch a game over an extended period of time yet to see the difference. I know that there's like a video that they've done where they've matched like 1/2 inning, now with a half inning of another game, and just how much more action has been happening. So from that aspect, it is good because I did try to watch a lot of, try to watch baseball. In these last couple years, the pace of the game has just gone to a crawl because there's no action going on. So I think it is good that they're at least trying to force some action out. Like the other sports have clocks. Like they did. Basketball didn't used to have a shot clock. They went to a shot clock, and the purpose is speed things up and not just give one team the ball. And like I do like the fact that a pitcher can't just stand out there and be a human rain delay, and batters can't keep stepping out of the boxes. Force some action out there.
Yeah. I don't really have an issue with it either, man. It is what it is.
What do you think about the 3 pickoff rule?
Now, this one to me is very interesting because I feel like teams are never going to throw over more than twice now. Because if they throw over 3 times, the guy's going to get a great jump. I mean, I don't know why you would paint yourself in that corner.
Once you've thrown over 3 times, then the guy knows you can't throw over anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like this one, to be honest with you. And of all of them, this is the one I like the least.
I'm with you
because of that. It affects the actual gameplay and the strategy of the game. Now, I will agree. I don't like it when a pitcher throws over 3, 4, 5 times. It's ridiculous. But you at least have to have the element of surprise that he might do it.
Right.
And when you limit it at 3, if they happen to throw over 3 times, I'm giving the steal sign all day.
And, again, like people have talked about, I don't want, like with the pitch clock, I don't want in the 9th inning, the pitch clock determining the outcome. I think by the time, they'll make their adjustments in spring training. By the time they get to real games, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue because they'll have it figured out to an extent. But like with this pickoff rule, what if you got a fast guy at first base in the 9th inning? Like Dave Roberts, Red Sox, Yankees, Mariano Rivera, the arguably I guess the second most famous stolen base ever because Jackie Robinson stealing home against the Yankees in the World Series, probably the most famous stolen base ever. But the Dave Roberts steal of second base in 2004 in Game 4 led to the Red Sox the greatest comeback in any sport in a 7-game series. If he doesn't steal second base, the comeback never happens. The Red Sox don't win that World Series. And Mariano Rivera threw over there a few times. That completely alters that kind of situation. Crucial game situation.
Correct.
I don't like it at all.
Yep. Big problem with that.
USMA 87. Are they going to limit the number of foul balls? And that's like, I remember when I first started playing softball, after growing up playing baseball, it's like you hit strike 2 foul and it's like, like that's strike 3 now. And it's like, oh, are you kidding me? But
it's terrible.
It's exactly what he's talking about. They do it to keep the game moving along.
Oh, terrible rule.
Yep. What about banning the shifts?
I mean, I'm okay with it. I hate the shift if I'm being honest, but I don't. I've said that. I've said if I'm being honest like 10 times tonight. I really
I think
did not
someone's
like
winning. Got the bingo card on you.
Yeah, seriously. I don't like the shift. I didn't like the shift. I like the old school third, short, second, first, outfield's playing in the right spot, etc. Right? I like that. I never liked the shift. It's a lot easier said than done to hit away from the shift. It just is. I mean, the math is all there. So I like the fact that they're going to do it this way. Now, teams are going to just bring in an outfielder and just play with 2 outfielders, essentially. And they're probably going to have a lot of success doing it that way. But I, frankly, am a fan of them banning the shift. I know that's going to make people sound that might get people upset, but I'm actually happy that they're banning the shift because I never liked it.
No, I didn't either. It was too much, because again, it like goes back to softball, like you're playing with a rover out there in the outfield and the, like playing a third baseman behind second base, all that stuff. I don't think that there's anything wrong with just saying you've got to have two infielders on each side of the bag. Now you can still get one close to second base, or you can get them both close to second base. But again, they're trying to bring back some action into the game.
Right.
And
Right.
how many hits where a guy hits the snot out of the ball right up the middle,
Yeah.
that turn into nothing.
And you can still have a guy kind of up the middle, and I get that. But
right.
you were a coach.
But at least make it a little bit more of a challenge.
Right. You were a coach. I was a coach. When you're in the batting cage, what are you wanting the guys to do every time they hit off of a tee or whatever? Line drives,
Yeah.
line drives. Like that's what you want. And it takes that away. Everything that they've learned all the way from like 5 years old up is gone when you do the shift. It's gone. You want to hit up the middle. Like that's what you want to do. And that's why I hated the shift. It just goes against everything that you teach a hitter. And I don't like it.
And then the final one is bigger bases. And I couldn't believe when I saw a picture of what the old bases were and what these new bases
look massive.
Like. And apparently the thinking behind this, like trying to avoid some of that contact on the plays at second base and stuff like that. But they're also trying to incentivize stolen bases, because by having those bigger bases,
you can go wider, I guess.
Well, it shortens, the base paths a little bit.
True.
For one, and just to play, the ability to get there a little bit quicker, I guess, at second base. They're trying to bring the stolen base back into vogue,
which
I think
I'm
is
all
good
for.
as well. Yeah,
I love the stolen bases. I love action on the base paths. That's how I coached, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah,
I don't know if bigger bases are really going to bring back more stolen bases. Maybe they will. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I think the bigger bases look ridiculous. It's almost as bad as having
they do look like clown bases, basically.
It's almost as bad as having the orange base next to first base, that you run to in the old man softball league. Like,
right.
I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know that it's going to affect the game in a positive way. I don't like that at all. Now, to throw a curveball at you, pun intended, they're still doing the man on second base in extra innings, aren't they?
They are. And
that's the
John
worst
brought
rule
that
possible.
up earlier. Doesn't like it.
Worst rule possible. That of all of the ones that they're bringing, I hate that one. I hate it. You should have outlawed that one when you got past second grade and you started doing ghost men on second. Like that's what it is. It's a ghost man on second. Terrible, terrible, terrible rule. It changes the way you operate in extra innings. I understand why they're doing it, and I hate it.
Yeah. Anthony says the bigger stolen bases are more about preventing injuries than creating more stolen. It's actually about both, because I've heard the conversation. I mean, but the play at second base is the biggest thing that they want to cut down on. But again, I mean, these bases are literally, there's like a foot. You're adding a foot to the bag almost, which means, with every bag, so again, it's injury at second base is the biggest thing, but the stolen base is part of it, because again, it's shortening the base paths a little bit. And they were trying to come up with a way. And again, I'm not just making this up, because, I've heard like the MLB Network and the ESPN guys talking about it. They were trying to come up with a way to figure out, well, how do you incentivize stolen bases? Well, you make if the bags are bigger, it makes the base paths a little bit smaller, and so you have a little bit more of a chance to steal a base. And they wanted to find a way to incentivize getting teams to steal more bases, to bring more action to the game, which I'm all for that. And just everything that you said, I agree. And like we grew up in the stolen base. Like I grew up watching Ricky Henderson and Tim Raines, Willie Wilson, all those guys.
It's all about stolen bases. I love, like I said, I love action on the base paths. I always have. My kids were always active on the base paths, whether we were good at it or not. Like that, we were going to run and we were going to make you get us out,
right?
And it won us some games, man. Like it won us some games, Sean. And I know you probably felt the same way when you were coaching. I mean, when you are, we were the underdog going into games,
yeah.
And we had to kind of take matters into our own hands at times. You know what I mean? And stealing bases is one of the ways to do that.
Right.
So
Make
I
teams
love
make plays. That's right.
Yeah.
Little havoc on the bases. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's like both the Royals and the Cardinals in the late 70s, early 80s. Stolen bases were a huge part of their world championships. Mr. 2.0, I've never – okay, so Brian, Sean Davis apparently, and Ryan have all encountered this question. Are Pop-Tarts ravioli? And I'm not exactly sure what that means. Like,
well, it's a pocket of stuff with stuff in it, I guess.
Okay.
So it's like,
okay, I didn't think
the
about
answer is
it.
no, because ravioli is pasta and a Pop-Tart is bread.
Right.
So I mean, that would be the major difference. But I understand where the question
technically,
is coming
though,
from.
they're both made from flour. You just bake.
It's a lot of things made from flour. But
Sugary goodness, sugary sweet goodness in a Pop-Tart. My vote is no.
My vote is no as well. I just can't do that to pasta. It's not fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight. We actually stirred people up with a little bit of baseball. I wasn't sure.
Love it.
Where people would be on that.
I love it. I can't wait for baseball. I've watched zero baseball up to this point. I still can't watch Marquee, so I can't watch the Cubs, which may be a blessing. I'm not sure yet, but I'm not as excited as I normally am.
There's 3 regional sports networks that are losing, like the 3 Major League Baseball teams. The regional sports network that they're with is going under. So
really,
they're trying to figure out who's going to get the rights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeesh.
Yes.
Yeesh.
You can't end on a Pop-Tart question, Derek says. Well, give me something else then. I don't know.
Ryan apparently agrees that it is a ravioli.
Interesting.
That's hard for me to fathom on that one.
Is he part Italian?
I'm going to go with no, but I don't say it with a lot of confidence.
Okay.
I don't know. Roberts doesn't strike me as an Italian name.
No, but like his mom could have been Italian.
So. I mean, it's possible. I mean, he lives in Jersey, so I mean, it's definitely possible.
True. Very true. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you dropping in this evening and participating, throwing us some questions. We had a lot of good questions and conversation tonight, so we appreciate it. Hit the like button when you leave, and of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you. Oh, before I say we'll talk to you tomorrow, one note: Friday we will have the rapid fire show, but we're going to go ahead and make it 6:00 instead of the typical Friday 5:00 because the Notre Dame women play at 2. So we're going to push it to 6 just to make sure I've got enough time to get back here and get ready and all that kind of stuff.
It's good to know.
Yes.
Thanks.
No problem. I was going to let you know at some point, but I figured I'd let everybody else know as well.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.